There's something quietly powerful about choosing to stay home when everyone else is rushing out the door. While the world celebrates the extrovert, the social butterfly, the one who thrives in crowded rooms, there's a different kind of person who finds their peace in solitude. They're not broken, antisocial, or afraid of the world. They've simply discovered something most people spend their entire lives searching for. They've found contentment in their own company. But what drives this preference? What psychological forces shape someone who genuinely enjoys staying home while others feel trapped by the same four walls? The answer isn't what you might think. It's not about fear or limitation. It's about understanding something fundamental about human energy, creativity, and what it truly means to recharge. When most people hear homebody, they picture someone hiding from life, avoiding challenges, or lacking ambition. But that's a misunderstanding of what's really happening beneath the surface. The psychology of people who prefer staying home reveals a complex interplay of personality traits, cognitive patterns, and emotional intelligence that often goes unrecognized. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt truly restored after being around people? Not just happy or entertained, but genuinely recharged, like your internal battery had been filled. For many people, that feeling comes from solitude, from quiet moments, from the gentle rhythm of their own thoughts without external noise. This isn't about being antisocial, it's about energy management. Psychologists have identified that some people are what we call highly sensitive, meaning their nervous systems process stimuli more deeply. Loud environments, crowds, and constant social interaction don't just tire them, they overwhelm their entire system. For these individuals, staying home isn't avoidance, it's survival. Think about how your brain processes information throughout the day. Every conversation, every notification, every decision requires mental energy. Some people can handle this constant input without much drain. Others reach their capacity much faster. When you understand this fundamental difference, the preference for staying home starts to make perfect sense. There's also something called introversion, but not in the way most people understand it. True introversion isn't about being shy or socially awkward. It's about where you direct your attention and how you process experiences. Introverts tend to focus inward, finding richness in their internal world of thoughts, ideas, and reflections. They don't need external stimulation to feel engaged because their minds are already active, already exploring. But here's where it gets fascinating. People who prefer staying home often have incredibly rich inner lives. They're not sitting around doing nothing. They're thinking, creating, processing, connecting dots that others might miss. They might be reading, writing, learning new skills, or simply allowing their minds to wander and make unexpected connections. This preference often develops early, sometimes in childhood. Maybe you were the kid who preferred playing alone, who found birthday parties overwhelming, who felt drained after school and needed quiet time to recover. Your parents might have worried, thinking you were too isolated. Teachers might have encouraged you to be more social. But what if that quiet preference was actually your nervous system telling you exactly what it needed? The modern world has created an interesting paradox. We're more connected than ever through technology, yet many people feel lonelier than previous generations. But those who prefer staying home often report feeling less lonely than their highly social counterparts. Why? Because they've learned the difference between being alone and being lonely. They've discovered that solitude can be nourishing rather than isolating. There's a psychological concept called social battery, and it's not just a metaphor. Your capacity for social interaction is literally finite. Every conversation, every group dynamic, every need to read social cues depletes this resource. Some people have larger social batteries, others smaller ones. Those who prefer staying home have often learned to respect their battery size rather than constantly draining it. But what about creativity? This is where the psychology gets really interesting. Many of history's greatest innovations came from people who spent significant time alone. Solitude provides something that group settings rarely can: uninterrupted thinking time. When you're not responding to others, managing social dynamics, or processing external input, your mind has space to explore ideas deeply. The brain has two primary modes: focused attention and what neuroscientists call the default mode network. This default mode is when your mind wanders, makes connections, and processes experiences. It's incredibly active during quiet moments, during solitude. People who enjoy staying home often have well-developed default mode networks because they give their brains regular opportunities to operate in this state. there's also the matter of authenticity. In social situations, we all perform to some degree. We adjust our behaviour, monitor our words, present versions of ourselves that fit the context. This isn't necessarily false, but it does require energy. At home, alone, you can drop these social masks. You can be completely authentic without worrying about how others perceive you. For many people, this authenticity feels like coming home to themselves. Control is another significant factor. The world outside is unpredictable. You can't control traffic, other people's moods, unexpected delays or social dynamics that might arise. But at home, you have much more control over your environment, your schedule, your energy expenditure. For people who find unpredictability stressful, staying home provides a sense of stability and peace. The preference for staying home often correlates with what psychologists call low sensation seeking. While some people crave novelty, excitement, and stimulation, others find satisfaction in familiar environments, predictable routines, and gentle experiences. Neither approach is better or worse, they're simply different ways of engaging with life. But here's something crucial to understand. This preference isn't static. Life circumstances, mental health, past experiences, and even brain chemistry can influence how much someone enjoys solitude versus social interaction. Someone might go through periods of preferring home and periods of craving more social connection. It's not a fixed personality trait, but rather a dynamic preference that can shift over time. The digital age has also changed what staying home means. You can learn new languages, take virtual museum tours, connect with people worldwide, build businesses, create art, and engage with ideas in ways that previous generations of homebodies never could. Staying home no longer means being cut off from the world, it means choosing how you engage with it. There's also a deeper philosophical element at play. Some people find meaning in external achievements, social recognition, and shared experiences. Others find meaning in internal growth, personal understanding, and quiet contemplation. Neither path is superior, but they lead to very different lifestyle preferences. The psychological benefits of preferring home extend beyond just personal comfort. Research suggests that people who enjoy solitude often develop stronger self-awareness, better emotional regulation, and more authentic relationships. When you're comfortable with yourself, your social interactions become more genuine because you're not seeking validation or trying to fill an internal void. However, there's an important distinction between choosing solitude and feeling forced into it. The psychology is completely different when staying home is a preference versus when it's driven by anxiety, depression, or social fears. True preference for staying home comes from a place of contentment, not avoidance. Understanding this psychology matters because we live in a culture that often misunderstands and undervalues the preference for solitude. We celebrate the networker, the party goer, the always available friend. But what if we also celebrated the deep thinker, the creative hermit, the person who finds profound joy in quiet moments? The next part of our exploration will dive deeper into how this preference shapes relationships, career choices, and life satisfaction in ways that might surprise you. The way this preference shapes relationships is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of all. People assume that those who prefer staying home must struggle with intimacy or connection. But the opposite is often true. When you're genuinely comfortable with solitude, your relationships become more intentional. You're not seeking companionship to escape loneliness because you've already made peace with being alone. This creates a fascinating dynamic. Instead of needing people, you choose them. And that choice carries a different energy entirely. Your friendships aren't born from desperation or fear of missing out. They're built on genuine appreciation for specific individuals. You might have fewer relationships, but they tend to run deeper because each one is deliberate. Think about the quality versus quantity principle. While some people collect acquaintances like trophies, those who prefer staying home often cultivate a smaller circle of meaningful connections. They're not networking for the sake of networking. They're not maintaining friendships out of obligation. Every relationship in their life serves a purpose, fulfills a genuine need, or brings authentic joy. But here's where it gets psychologically complex. This selectiveness can be misinterpreted as coldness or indifference. Family members might feel rejected when you decline their invitations. Friends might assume you don't care when you choose quiet evenings over social gatherings. The truth is more nuanced. You care deeply, but you also understand that caring doesn't require constant presence. There's something profound about loving people enough to show up as your authentic self rather than a depleted version who's forcing enthusiasm. When someone who prefers staying home does choose to socialize, they're often fully present because they've made a conscious decision to be there. They're not distracted by social obligations or mentally calculating when they can leave. They've chosen that moment, that person, that experience. The romantic relationships of homebodies reveal another layer of this psychology. They're not looking for someone to complete them or rescue them from solitude. They're looking for someone who enhances their already content life. This creates relationships built on addition rather than need. Two whole people choosing each other rather than two halves trying to become complete. But this can create challenges too. Partners who don't understand this psychology might interpret the preference for staying home as rejection. They might feel unloved when their homebody partner chooses reading over going out. They might worry that their relationship lacks excitement or adventure. The key is understanding that for many people, deep connection happens in quiet moments, not crowded rooms. Career choices for those who prefer staying home often reflect this same psychological pattern. They're drawn to work that allows for deep focus, minimal interruption, and often the ability to work independently. They might choose careers in writing, research, programming, design, or any field that values depth over breadth, quality over quantity. This doesn't mean they lack ambition. It means their definition of success might be different. While some people measure success by promotions, networking events, or public recognition, homebodies might measure it by work satisfaction, creative fulfillment, or the ability to maintain work-life balance. They're not climbing the corporate ladder to prove anything to anyone. They're building careers that align with their natural energy patterns. The modern workplace is slowly recognizing the value of this psychology. Remote work, flexible schedules, and project-based roles all cater to people who do their best work in controlled, quiet environments. What was once seen as antisocial behavior is now understood as a legitimate working style that can produce exceptional results. But there's a shadow side to explore as well. The line between healthy solitude and unhealthy isolation can be thin, and it's not always easy to recognize when you've crossed it. Depression, anxiety, and trauma can all masquerade as a preference for staying home. The key difference lies in the emotional quality of the experience. Healthy solitude feels nourishing. Unhealthy isolation feels heavy, stagnant, or fearful. This is where self-awareness becomes crucial. Are you staying home because you genuinely enjoy it, or because the outside world feels too threatening? Are you choosing solitude from a place of strength, or are you hiding from something that scares you? The psychology behind these two scenarios is completely different, even though the behavior looks the same. The seasonal patterns many homebodies experience also reveal something interesting about their psychology. They might be more social during certain times of the year and more reclusive during others. This isn't inconsistency, it's responsiveness to their internal rhythms. They've learned to honor their natural cycles rather than forcing themselves to maintain constant social availability. Cultural factors play a significant role too. In cultures that value collectivism and constant social connection, preferring to stay home can feel like a rebellion or a character flaw. But in cultures that respect individual space and quiet contemplation, it might be seen as wisdom or maturity. The same psychological preference can be interpreted completely differently based on social context. The digital revolution has created new categories of homebodies. There are those who use technology to connect with the world from their living rooms, and those who use staying home as an escape from digital overwhelm. Both groups share the preference for controlled environments, but their relationship with technology reveals different aspects of the psychology. Some people stay home to dive deeper into digital communities, finding richer connections online than they ever did in person. Others stay home to disconnect entirely, finding peace in analog activities like reading physical books, cooking elaborate meals, or working with their hands. Both approaches satisfy the same underlying need for controlled, meaningful engagement with life. The creative output of many homebodies is often remarkable, but it's also often invisible. They're not creating for applause or recognition. They're creating because the act itself brings satisfaction. They might write novels that never get published, compose music that never gets performed, or develop ideas that never get shared. The creative process itself is the reward. This relationship with creativity reveals something fundamental about their psychology. They don't need external validation to find meaning in their activities. The satisfaction comes from the doing, not the recognition. This internal motivation can lead to incredibly authentic creative work because it's not shaped by audience expectations or market demands. The question of life satisfaction among those who prefer staying home challenges many cultural assumptions about happiness and fulfillment. Studies consistently show that many people who prefer staying home report higher levels of life satisfaction than their more socially active counterparts. This flies in the face of conventional wisdom that equates happiness with social engagement and external activity. But when you examine the psychology more closely, it makes perfect sense. Contentment, it turns out, isn't about how much you do or how many people you see. It's about alignment between your natural inclinations and your actual lifestyle. When someone who thrives in solitude honors that preference, they experience a deep sense of harmony with themselves. They're not fighting their nature, they're working with it. The mental health implications of this are significant. Many people who prefer staying home report lower levels of anxiety and stress compared to when they force themselves to be more social. This isn't because they're avoiding life's challenges, it's because they're managing their energy in a sustainable way. They've learned to recognize their limits and respect them. But there's a misconception that needs addressing. People assume that preferring to stay home means missing out on life's experiences. This reveals a narrow definition of what experiences matter. For many homebodies, the most profound experiences happen in quiet moments. The insight that comes during a long walk alone, the creative breakthrough that emerges during hours of uninterrupted focus, the deep sense of peace that settles in during a rainy afternoon with nowhere to be. These internal experiences can be just as transformative as traveling to exotic locations or attending exciting events. They just don't make for impressive social media posts. The psychology of people who prefer staying home often includes an appreciation for subtle, understated experiences that others might overlook entirely. There's also the matter of decision fatigue. Every social interaction requires countless micro-decisions about what to say, how to respond, when to speak, how to position your body. For people with sensitive nervous systems, these decisions accumulate throughout social encounters, creating mental exhaustion. Staying home eliminates this particular form of cognitive load. The relationship with time is different too. When you're not constantly scheduling social activities or commuting to meet others, you have a different relationship with your days and hours. Time feels more spacious, less fragmented. You can follow natural rhythms rather than external schedules. This can lead to a profound sense of temporal freedom that many people never experience. The learning patterns of homebodies often reflect their preference for depth over breadth. While some people learn through discussion, debate, and group exploration, others learn through quiet study, reflection, and independent investigation. Neither approach is superior, but they require different environments to flourish. The homebody's preference for staying in creates optimal conditions for their natural learning style. Sleep patterns reveal another layer of this psychology. Many people who prefer staying home are naturally more sensitive to stimulation, which often extends to their sleep needs. They might require more sleep than others, or they might need specific conditions to rest well. Staying home allows them to protect their sleep environment and maintain the rest patterns their bodies actually need. The relationship with possessions and space is also distinctive. When you spend significant time at home, your environment becomes much more important. Homebodies often develop keen awareness of how their surroundings affect their mood and energy. They might invest more time and thought into creating spaces that truly support their well-being, rather than simply impressing visitors. This attention to environment extends to sensory preferences. Lighting, sound, texture, temperature, all these factors matter more when you're spending extended time in a space. What might seem like pickiness to others is actually sensitivity to how environmental factors impact their psychological state. The spiritual or philosophical dimensions of preferring home often involve questions about what constitutes a meaningful life. While culture might suggest that meaningful lives are filled with adventure, achievement, and social connection, many homebodies discover meaning in contemplation, growth, and inner development. They're not escaping from meaning, they're finding it through different pathways. The generational aspects of this psychology are evolving rapidly. Younger generations who grew up with constant connectivity might experience staying home differently than older generations who remember life before digital communication. For some, home represents escape from information overload. For others, it's a base for digital exploration of the world. Economic factors play a role too. The cost of constantly going out, maintaining active social lives, and pursuing external entertainment can be significant. People who prefer staying home often discover that their natural inclinations align with financial wellness. They're not depriving themselves, they're finding satisfaction in ways that happen to be less expensive. The seasonal and cyclical patterns many homebodies experience suggest that this preference might be partially biological. Just as some people need more sleep during winter months, some might need more solitude during certain life phases or times of year. Honouring these cycles rather than fighting them often leads to better overall well-being. The creative projects that emerge from extended time at home often have a different quality than work produced in collaborative or social environments. There's often a depth, an authenticity, a unique perspective that comes from processing ideas without immediate external input. This doesn't make solitary creativity better than collaborative creativity, but it does make it distinctly different. The physical health aspects of this lifestyle choice are worth considering. When you're not constantly rushing between social obligations, you might have more time for meal preparation, exercise, adequate rest, and stress management. The slower pace that often accompanies staying home can support better physical health habits. But perhaps most importantly, the psychology of people who prefer staying home challenges us to reconsider our definitions of a life well lived. It suggests that fulfillment doesn't require constant motion, endless socializing, or external validation. Sometimes the richest life is found in the quiet spaces between all the noise. Understanding this psychology isn't just academic curiosity. In a world that's becoming increasingly loud, fast, and demanding, those who've learned to find peace at home might be teaching us something essential about sustainable living, authentic happiness, and the courage to live according to your own nature rather than society's expectations. So the next time someone asks why you prefer staying home, remember this. You're not missing out on life, you're living it on your own terms. You've discovered something that many people spend decades searching for, the ability to find contentment within yourself. That's not a limitation, that's wisdom, and maybe, just maybe, you're exactly where you need to be.